Our top story this hour, thick black smoke has risen from the Sistine Chapel chimney, signalling that the cardinals meeting in the conclave have not yet agreed on a new pope. Thousands of people gathered in St Peter's Square to wait for the result of the first vote, which lasted about 3 hours. Well, joining us now is our Rome correspondent, Sarah Rainsford. Sarah, you were at the Vatican to see the smoke, and you were lucky to manage to do that against the night sky.
Yeah, exactly. It was, more than 3 hours after the start of the conclave, so the lockdown moment when the cardinals had been shut inside the Sistine Chapel, had begun their vote. And we'd been led to believe that by around 7 o'clock here in Rome, we might see some smoke. And that's when there was a massive crowd started to gather here at the Vatican. So St Peter's Square was pretty full. And then all the way down the street, just in that direction, there were loads of people. The police said around about 30,000 at one point. And all of them, of course, had their eyes really firmly fixed on that skinny chimney on top of the Sistine Chapel, all of them looking for smoke. And the wait was so long, it went on so long, that people began to think maybe actually it was going to be white. Now that would have meant that there had been a pope elected, and that would have been pretty, not unprecedented, but pretty unusual. I think it hasn't happened for decades, maybe 150 years or so at the very, very least. So it would have been really unusual, very unexpected. And that's not what happened. In the end, it was thick black smoke that poured out of the chimney. We couldn't see it because it was so dark, but there were big screens on the square here and all the way down the road. And that close-up shot gave us the image that everyone here had been waiting for. The crowd surged forward. There was a lot of excitement. And when they saw it was black, they all started disappearing from the square pretty quickly.
So we can stand at ease till tomorrow.
Yeah, not long, not long. I wonder how many of those people will be back in the morning, because the cardinals will be back in the Sistine Chapel tomorrow morning. It should be a little bit quicker, the whole process, because they don't have to swear the oath. This time, every one of those 133 had to walk up, place their hand on the Gospels and swear an oath, including an oath of secrecy, that they would never reveal any of the details of this election. So that won't happen tomorrow. Instead, they'll move straight to the voting, but it's still a pretty slow process. And if there is no result, so if there is no pope elected in the first vote, then there will be a second round of voting without any smoke. So we could have a result around 10ish in the morning. It could be another few hours after that. But frankly, after today, I think, all the bets are off. We have no idea, frankly, how long this is going to take. Perhaps it could be longer than that.
Yeah, it was longer than we expected, as you say. How many times will they vote tomorrow?
4 votes tomorrow, so a morning round, 2 rounds of voting in the morning potentially. Then the cardinals head for lunch in the Casa Santa Marta, so the residence inside the Vatican, and then there's another potential for 2 more rounds of voting in the afternoon. So potentially multiple moments at which we may see smoke, if it's white smoke in the morning, if it's black smoke at the end of the morning, and then again in the afternoon. So lots of voting, lots of potential, but again, lots of question marks, because the fact that this is so secret, the fact that the lockdown is so total, means we just don't know what's going on inside the Sistine Chapel. So we don't know if they're getting any closer to reaching a consensus. We imagine that in this first round of voting, a number of names have emerged. A number of people, cardinals, will have collected votes. So I guess what happens this evening in the residence here in the Vatican is that the cardinals will begin to discuss the results of today's vote, and they'll begin perhaps to coalesce around some of the more likely candidates, and potentially that means the process might move a little faster, but we just don't know. Anything could happen. It still is a really open field.
But this is a diverse conclave, isn't it? A lot of these cardinals were appointed by Pope Francis. They've got to get to know each other.
Yeah, although they've had, more than 2 weeks of doing just that. They've been pretty much every morning here in the Vatican. There've been what's called congregations, so meetings of the cardinals when they have been discussing exactly what they believe the priorities should be for the Catholic Church. They've all been discussing the particular issues of the regions of the world that they've come from. So some of those cardinals who are in countries that have a cardinal for the first time, bringing new information perhaps to those congregations, and all of that has been thrown into the big mixing pot, and all of that will be on the minds of the cardinals as they're casting their vote. So they have had a fair old time to have those discussions, to think about their vote, to think about what kind of church they want, to think about what kind of pope they want. And it is all about now seeing how quickly they can come to that majority. 89 cardinals need to agree for us to see that white smoke tomorrow at some stage.